Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Lou Canellis. I'm at Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me on this week's edition of First and North, the voice of the Detroit Lions from Fox 2 in Detroit, Dan Miller. From Fox 6 in Milwaukee, Lily Zhao, and from Fox 9 Minneapolis, Pierre Nugent. Good to see everyone. Championship Sunday this weekend. We are down to the Final Four. NFC West, well represented. Yeah, they are representing the conference proud with the number 1 seed Seahawks hosting 5 seed LA, the Rams, in the AFC. The top 2 seeds, top seed Denver, without its starting quarterback, Bo Nix, against 2 seed New England. We'll talk more about the matchups coming up at the end of the show when we give our predictions as well. I want to start off with the Bears, guys, and I'm going to ask you guys to jump in as well. The magic carpet ride, that fantasy football season that here in Chicago we lived through this season, well, the Bears came to an abrupt end Sunday night for this franchise. Another miracle throw from Caleb Williams, 4th down heave with 18 seconds left, game on the line. Williams took the snap at LA's 14-yard line, retreated to the 40, and he launched a pass 50 yards to Cole Kmet in the end zone. And just when you thought you had seen it all from Caleb, you were reminded you have not.
It's a special group. I said that a few weeks ago. I believe that to my core, that when you're with a group of men for the last time in the locker room, and it's just not going to be the same going forward. That I appreciate all of them, the men and the women, coaches, players, support staff, everybody that had a role this season. It was a special year, and this will be hopefully a feeling in this locker room that we won't forget, and we'll be able to use it as fuel going forward.
In these moments, you feel that you let your team down, or you feel that you this or that, and it's a good lesson learned for us. First time been in this situation for me and for us as a team, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah, I wanted to also talk about the end of the game as well, because Caleb was on the verge of bringing the Bears back for an 8th time this season. Final offensive play for the Bears in the game, and he throws an interception. Did DJ Moore not run hard enough? Did he run a poor route? At some point, we hope to hear from DJ Moore to get his side. We have not. At the point that we have taped this show, Caleb Williams said it was miscommunication between he and Moore. Spoken like a leader who never wanted to throw his teammate under the bus. And Williams and Matthew Stafford both did what they could in the below-zero wind chill at Soldier Field. Personally, I thought Stafford handled the weather better than some of his L.A. teammates. And credit needs to be given to Dennis Allen and the Bears defense, especially that secondary. Jaquan Brisker, for example, whose line score was ridiculous in what may have been his final game with the Bears. Brisker is a free agent. So is Kevin Byard, both starting safeties for the Bears. And I could keep going on and on about the Bears, but I want to bring in Lily because I want to get through the beginning of this show. I want a word from each of you. Did you guys happen to see the Bears game, Lily?
Did we happen? Oh my gosh, the sports office, it was pandemonium, Lou, at least here in Milwaukee. I mean, we were glued to that game, and just being, having covered 2 Packers games where they gave up the lead and lost to the Bears in the 4th quarter, I just had a feeling somehow, some way, Caleb Williams was going to do something insane at the end of that game to send it to overtime or again go for 2 and win. I knew something crazy was going to happen, and I was proven right. I mean, that throw from Caleb Williams to Cole Kmet was one of the all-time throws. It was improbable. It was insane. I mean, you should have heard us in the sports office. We were just jaw on the floor. Unbelievable. We certainly saw that one, guys, and it was a really good watch.
Dan, you've seen a lot of football. Have you seen a guy take the snap at LA's 14 and then retreat to the 40 and launch a missile like that?
No, they don't teach that very often in terms of installing in an offense, but it was incredible. It really was. And it's kind of what we've seen from the Bears all year. They just figure out a way, and normally it is somewhere along the line, Caleb Williams making a miraculous play to get it done. I will say this, equally as good as that throw was the bad defense by Kobe Durant. I don't know if he was pushed. You can look at the replay over and over. It's hard to tell how much leverage there was, but there's no way in the world you can allow that pass to be completed. Luckily for him, LA comes back to win the game, so he doesn't have to wear that. But look, it's part of this guy's makeup. And I think now it's just about Caleb Williams leveling out what he is as a quarterback. That 58% completion percentage has to come up. Some of those throws, and Lou, you said that third interception, we don't know who was at fault there. But some of the easier throws that he has to make that he doesn't complete, when he starts to nail those, his ability to control a football game is going to simply go up. So I think you're looking for him to get better and to level off some of the edges, the real highs and then some of the misses. When that kind of comes like this, it's going to be really tough for other teams around the division to deal with this. I think this division, guys, and I'm sure it will come up, is going to be a beast next year. I think he's certainly part of that. I think Minnesota's still talented. I think we're still talented. I think Green Bay's still talented. And I think it's going to be a heck of a battle, and certainly Williams is right in the middle of it.
Before we dig into the Vikings, Pierre, follow up on what Dan said. What do you think of the NFC North as we look ahead to 2026?
It's absolutely an intriguing division going into next year. There's no question about it, especially when you look at the quarterback position. You have Caleb Williams. Jordan Love is still an emerging quarterback in this league. Jared Goff coming off a terrific season for him. And then, of course, you still have the questions with J.J. McCarthy. But if J.J. McCarthy can establish himself as a consistent presence as the starting quarterback in Minnesota, you're looking at a division with 4 really good quarterbacks. And that's a division where I guess you speak about it with pride. But if you're a head coach in this division, you're probably giving yourself a headache week in and week out trying to game prep for 6 games against these guys. So I absolutely agree with Dan. I think next year it's going to be an absolute banger every year for the NFC North.
I want to bring back Lily. Lily, let's talk about the Packers now, because a couple of former Packers are headed to the sunshine of South Florida. Miami hiring Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as its next head coach, and he was hired by former Green Bay executive John Eric Sullivan. How big a loss is Hafley?
I think it's a big loss. When you look at what Jeff Hafley was able to do in 2 years with the Packers as their defensive coordinator, it's been just kind of a breath of fresh air. I think one of the knocks against Matt LaFleur was his ability to hire the right coordinators. I think Jeff Hafley was a home run hitter. They bring him in. You see how good his defense was with the addition of Micah Parsons. And now you bring a guy who I think commands the room very well. I think I was telling Pierre this before our show tape, that he is a phenomenal orator. He gets guys pumped up. He gets guys to believe. I think that's a really good trait in a head football coach. His first time, of course, doing it in the NFL setting, but he's a guy that will rally his team around him, and I think that's going to be very important going to a new team, trying to win as a head coach. But I think when you have the familiarity with your general manager and John Eric Sullivan, who's spoken very highly of Jeff Hafley, that's a really good mix there to have in Miami as they try to build something there and try to move forward. But I think this was a nice hire for Miami, and I'm really curious to see what does happen with Jeff Hafley. And just a reminder, though, Packers and Dolphins do square off next year at Lambeau Field, so that's going to be a really fun marquee matchup.
Yeah, that's for sure. Lily, I want to get back to you about which players may follow Hafley and John Eric Sullivan to Miami, but I want to also talk about the Lions. Dan, Lions hired former Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing. Former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel was the consensus popular pick amongst the fans. I've been following what Detroit did on social media, and a number of Lions fans are not happy with the Petzing selection. Why is he a better fit?
Well, I don't know that I can make that case because we have to see what he does. Look, Petzing is not a known name for a lot of people, and immediately that reaction brings about negativity from people because he's not McDaniel, he's not Kafka, he's not Daboll, he's not one of these offensive guys that was out there that had been connected to the job. But we knew the Lions were talking to some people that were not made public, and bang, this happens, and people are like, what? We didn't hear his name, and he's not one of these other guys. I don't know where McDaniel's going to end up. I don't know where he's going to be in this cycle. He's still involved in some of the other jobs to be a head coach. Rumor is if he doesn't get a head coaching job, he may end up in Tampa as not just the offensive coordinator, maybe the head coach in waiting there. So we'll have to wait and see. So, look, it's one of those things that happens often where if people don't immediately have recognition and a track record on what a guy has done in their brains when it happens, it's going to be a negative in terms of the immediate reaction. But if you look into what this guy does and how he does it, you can connect the dots into what Dan Campbell liked and what he wants to do. 2 of the last 3 years, they have been top 10 in rushing in Arizona, where they're not exactly long on talent. They play under center. They utilize play action. Trey McBride had 237 catches the last 2 years. Sam Laporta's got to love that. Play action with a run game allows them to use St. Brown, allows them to use J-Mo, allows them to use Isaac Tesla. So you can see where Dan Campbell and the things that he wants to do are things that Drew Petzing has done in Arizona. But, Lou, look, it's going to come down to what he does when he gets here. You're not going to change people's minds right away because he's not Mike McDaniel. So he has to come in, he has to do the job. They have to fix this offensive line before anything happens, and then we will all find out together what this hire was. But clearly, you can see where he is a Dan Campbell guy.
All right, Pierre, I want to ask you about Brian Flores, but I'm going to do it in the next segment because first I want to get to this. Vikings in the same position that they were in at this time last year. They're looking for a starting caliber quarterback or two to play with and maybe compete with J.J. McCarthy.
I want the Vikings to achieve our goals, and I think one of those goals is to make playoff runs and do different things like that. I think he's the character and ability to be the person to do that for our organization. If I say that in 2026, that kind of binds us into a certain, area. The way we've set this team up, we built this core to really, like we've always talked about, give ourselves multiple shots at it because you never know when there's going to be a year where the field's a little bit wide open and you can make that run. And so that's what we're really focused on. Talking about whether it's this year or next year isn't really, my immediate reflection.
Pierre, who's out there to bring in, and what's the plan with J.J. McCarthy this offseason?
Well, like Lily mentioned, her and I were chit-chatting before the show here today. I know Malik Willis is a hot name out there in the quarterback world that could potentially be a guy that you bring in and provide competition to a guy like J.J. McCarthy. Mac Jones has also been another popular name with some Vikings fans here, but people have to remember, if you're looking at Mac Jones, he's still under contract with the San Francisco 49ers for another year. So if you really want Mac Jones that bad, you're going to have to make a trade for him. So those are potentially maybe some of the names you're looking at that could be coming to Minnesota to push J.J. McCarthy for the number one spot. And Lou, when you heard Kwesi Adofo-Mensah there talking about J.J. McCarthy and this team moving forward, listen, I know he wants to be a diplomat about things, but you know what I didn't hear in that talk? I didn't hear that J.J. McCarthy is our guy. J.J. McCarthy is the guy we believe in. J.J. McCarthy is going to be our quarterback leading us into 2026. I didn't hear that. Now, I don't necessarily blame him for not saying that because it's not exactly big news that J.J. McCarthy didn't have the best of seasons this past season in Minnesota, and J.J. McCarthy still has a lot to prove, but this was a guy that they were absolutely convinced was going to be the face of their franchise and the quarterback of the future in Minnesota. So I would almost rather prefer to hear that you're doubling down on your conviction. Stand by your guy. Stand by your man. Come on now. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, if he's the guy, stand by him at the very least. I know he's got a lot more growing to do, and I still believe there is potential there with J.J. McCarthy. But yes, there is going to have to be some type of quarterback competition because J.J. McCarthy does need to be pushed for the number one job.
Lily, give me a quick minute. Often players, we see them follow front office personnel or coaches to new teams. Throw me a bone here. Wide receiver Romeo Doubs. Is he going to end up in Miami? And what about Willis? Where do you think Willis goes?
Yeah, I think those are two intriguing names, guys. I think Malik Willis was the big name that would go to Miami, amongst the Green Bay Twitter sphere. People wanting him to go down there to reunite with Jeff Hafley and John Eric Sullivan. I think he'd get a great shot there as a starting quarterback. I think Malik Willis has earned a starting role, so I think for him, it's going to a team where he knows he will start. And so I think that would be a great shot for going down to Miami and following Jeff Hafley. But Romeo Doubs, I think he could really have his services used well down there as well. And so he's a guy, I think Romeo Doubs knew that when they lost to the Bears, that was his last game as a Packer. So I'm intrigued to see, again, what he will command on the open market, what the $10, $13 million range can Miami afford him? Do they want him? But he's a guy that's really established himself as a really steady-handed receiver. So I think one or two of those guys could join them down there. And that would be kind of wild if that does happen. But those are, I would say, Malik Willis, Romeo Doubs for sure would be two names to follow.
Hey, Lily, I will be more than happy to help pack their boxes, their bags, and let them go to Miami. So I don't have to see them against the Bears anymore. We need to take a timeout. Head coaching jobs are being filled up all over the league right now. Where will Brian Flores go? And Matt LaFleur, he's not going anywhere. We'll discuss next here on First and North. We're back on First and North. Lou Canellis at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago. Dan Miller is at Fox 2 in Detroit. Lily Zhao, Fox 6 in Milwaukee, and Pierre is at Fox 9 in Minneapolis. Lily, I'll start with you. Packers gave head coach Matt LaFleur a new contract, and it's not a prove-it deal. It's some real security. Do you think it was the right move?
I think if they wanted Matt LaFleur back, that was the right move. I don't think they were going to give him a prove-it deal per se, because, again, you're talking about coordinators leaving. You're not going to want to have coordinators coming in for a year or two being like, what's my future beyond this? So, I think the relationship that Matt LaFleur and their new team president, Ed Policy, has is a very strong one. Again, he was one of those guys on the onboarding process bringing Matt LaFleur into Green Bay when he first got to Titletown 7 years ago. So they have a very strong relationship. Again, I don't think Matt LaFleur had to do really anything, win or lose. I mean, they wanted to win, but I don't think a loss would have hurt his chances staying in Green Bay, and that was proven by their commitment to Matt LaFleur. So, again, the deals have yet to come out in terms of how long that contract extension will be. But again, I think Ed Policy is giving him a 3-4 year potential window of saying, this is your shot to win a Super Bowl. Please get it done. So Matt LaFleur coming back, and then they also extended their general manager, Brian Gutekunst, as well. So really the foundation of this Packers front office with Russ Ball, their money guy, also back reporting to Ed Policy, is returning next season and beyond. So I think that's an important piece for this Packers team as they look to really make a Super Bowl push next year.
Pierre, reports out of Minneapolis right now, Brian Flores favorite for the Pittsburgh Steelers head coaching job. You think that's a good fit? What else are you hearing?
I do think that would be a good fit for Pittsburgh. Obviously, the organization has familiarity with Brian Flores. He was a linebackers coach under Mike Tomlin a few years ago. So I do think that would be a good hire, in my opinion, for Pittsburgh to bring in Brian Flores, a guy who is a no-nonsense. And you see how he ran the defense here in Minnesota, not just last year, but in years past. He's an absolutely brilliant defensive mind. The concern that I have now for Minnesota, though, is they need to act fast if they want to keep Brian Flores here. If he gets an offer to become a head coach somewhere else, they'll wish him all the best. I have no doubt about that. But if they want to retain him as the defensive coordinator, they are going to have to move very quickly, because this feels like a game of musical chairs. And if the music stops between Brian Flores and the Vikings, you're going to be looking around and left wondering, well, who's going to be his replacement? The one name that I would keep my eye on right now, if Brian Flores were to move on from the Vikings, is Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris was the defensive coordinator, and Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator under Sean McVay in Los Angeles the year they won the Super Bowl. They have familiarity with each other, but I also hear that Green Bay is also looking for a defensive coordinator as well. So it could be a race to see who might be more interested in a guy like Raheem Morris. But if Brian Flores were to leave, Raheem Morris would make a lot of sense here in Minnesota as his replacement, in my opinion.
Would Flores leave for the defensive coordinator job in Green Bay or Dallas?
That's an interesting question, and I know Green Bay fans would love to have Brian Flores in their back pocket to become the defensive coordinator out in Green Bay. I think Dallas would absolutely put a full-on blitz to try to get him down in Big D. I think that would be a great fit down here between him and Shoddy. So, yes, there would be absolutely be interest there. Would he be willing to do it? I think if the price is right, yes, I do believe that he would be willing to jump in a lateral move to another team. But I do think when it comes down to it, if he is not a head coach elsewhere, I do believe the Vikings will have the best chance of retaining him.
Interesting. Dan, there are 6 NFL head coaching opportunities that are still open. Man, there were 10 at one point. You've been doing this 20-plus years as voice of the Lions. Is this the new NFL where a third of the head coaching jobs are going to be available after every season?
I mean, it's a significant cycle. There's no doubt about that. But I think it just goes to this day and age that we're in, where you don't have forever to build a team. And there are expectations when you get one of these jobs that you're going to be able to turn it around. I mean, it's, you look at the class that came in with Dan Campbell, and they were all wiped out pretty quickly, and Campbell was still standing. I think maybe one other guy from that cycle. But it's tough, and these jobs can be coach killers if you go into one and don't have the requisite talent to win. If you don't have a quarterback, you're just taking a job that you're going to have a very difficult time surviving in. That's why when you look at the Buffalo job, you have maybe the best player in the NFL sitting there waiting for you at quarterback, who needs somebody to lead the way and help him find a way to a Super Bowl. But you know, you look at some of the other jobs, the Raiders, where you're going to end up with Fernando Mendoza. Last night I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that might not be as bad as I thought it was a couple of weeks ago because you might have a quarterback. But, Lou, it's the bottom line for me. Is your owner going to provide you with all that you need to win? And is he going to give you a quarterback that's going to allow you to win? Because if you don't have one, you're just pretending and you will not succeed.
Let me jump in about the Bears because they could lose a number of assistant coaches this season. I saw that Hal Harris may be asked to be a defensive coordinator somewhere, and it looks like running backs coach Eric Bieniemy is expected to go back to Kansas City as their new offensive coordinator. And remember, Bieniemy worked for Andy Reid for 4 seasons as running backs coach and then 4 years as offensive coordinator, and this time he'd replace Matt Nagy, the former head coach of the Bears, who's trying to land a head coaching job now elsewhere. Hey, man, the Bears are going to miss Bieniemy. His effect on this run game was really, really big. I mean, vastly improved this season. Went from 102 yards a game to almost $145. They were the 3rd best rushing team in the NFL. DeAndre Swift, more disciplined as a runner, and Bieniemy did such a good job helping develop 7th-round draft pick Kyle Monangai as well. He taught him detail, the focus, preparation that you need to succeed on this level. He was really demanding. I was at some of those training camp practices. Man, he was in the faces of his running backs. He brought out the best in that running backs room. Swift and Monangai, by the way, were the first pair of Bears running backs to rush for at least 750 yards. I love this little nugget. The first Bears running backs to run for 750 in a season, at least 750 in a season, since Walter Payton and Roland Harper pulled it off back in 1978. Long time ago. We need to take a timeout. We're back with AFC, NFC championship predictions, and a closing word right after this here on First and North. All right, here are the matchups for this weekend's conference championship game Sunday. Patriots head to the Mile High City to take on the Bo Nix-less Denver Broncos. Rematch from Week 16's classic, Rams-Seahawks right here on Fox. All right, I want to start in Denver. Guys, I want you to give me your AFC champ, Pierre. Do the Broncos have any shot without Bo Nix?
I think they have a shot. I'm not as optimistic, obviously, without Bo Nix, but I do think they have a shot, yes, because of their pass rush. I mean, I think their pass rush is one of the top units in this league right now. So I do think they have a shot. I do think New England wins the game, though. I think New England wins. And I do think Denver will cover in this game. I think New England wins a tie win.
Dan?
Yeah, I agree. I think they have a shot because of their defense, but I think when it comes down to it, Vrabel is outstanding, May is outstanding, and I think it's going to be tough to beat New England with Jarrett Stidham.
Lily?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. I mean, Drake May does put the ball on the ground a lot, so the Broncos defense will have a chance there to score potentially if they can get their hand on a fumble or two. But I think at the end of the day, the more balanced team with the starting quarterback will come out on top. And that, of course, is the Pats.
All 4 of us taking New England. Real quickly, NFC, I like the Seahawks at home. I don't think they can be beaten. Lily?
Seahawks at home, I think we're going to see Sam Darnold playing for a Super Bowl.
Dan?
Defense is too much. I just think they're outstanding, and that's a tough place to play. Hate betting against Matthew Stafford, but I'll go Seattle.
Wrap it up, Pierre.
I'm picking the Rams. They've been my pick the entire time. I'm not backing down now. I'm doubling down. I'm going with the Rams to go to the Super Bowl and represent the NFC.
Not a bad pick.
That's what I love about Pierre. He's a gambling man. That man loves Vegas. He's taking the Rams. All right, guys, great show as always. Love you guys. For Dan, Lily, and Pierre, I'm Luke Canellis. Thanks for watching First and North.